What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Last 3 days, last 72 hours to enter to win this 92 12V Cummins plus $5,000 of cash. So if you want to enter to win this truck plus $5,000, it is super simple. Just go to lnpgear.com, buy anything off the store, and as soon as you check out, you're automatically entered to win. And also for these last few days, we're doing 20 times the entry. So every $1, instead of one entry like it was, every $1 is 20 entries. That's basically every nickel gets you an entry towards winning this truck. So just think about that, you know, that jar of change sitting by your door where you empty your pockets and you come in. There's probably enough nickels in that thing to get you a free truck plus $5,000. Just think about that. So anyways, we're on our way right now to go in, wash the silver 24 valve. The silver 24 valve is actually getting shipped out tomorrow. By the time you see this video, it will have already been shipped out over a week ago. My video schedule now is about a week ahead of the ordinary schedule, so this truck will be long gone by the time you actually see it. But this truck just needs a quick pressure wash down. We're going to take the pressure washer, get the little bit of dirt off of it that's on it, and then what we're also going to do is empty the bed. We've got some stuff in the bed that we need to take out. Just a few things, some ratchet straps, some components of the old lift kit, the old body lift. And we're also going to go on the inside and vacuum it out as well. The 24 valve all washed up and vacuumed out, but we've got a couple of small things we're just trying to do here to finish up some small things like sealing off that door up there so the birds aren't flying in above there. We've got some power strips for the barn here because I ran these cords up here. There's not a lot of outlets in this barn. These two here, then there's 4 in that little shop space, and then there's 3 down at the far end of the barn. So we have to run extension cords to be able to plug some stuff in. So I've got 2 cords here. I zip tied them into this little channel that was ran right down here, and then zip tied it up here so it stays like out of the way. And then I zip tied it up here on this hook too so you can't yank those cords out or bend the prongs on them or anything. But what I'm gonna do actually is I've got the fridge and the freezer down here so that we can keep some drinks in here cold. And then we got a freezer for process our pigs here soon so we can keep some of our farm-raised livestock in there, deer season, venison, whatever. We don't really have a lot of outlets, so I'm gonna have to get these power strips here and plug them in, and then I'm gonna put one down at the far end there to plug in the fridge, the freezer, and then the air compressor, I'm gonna keep it stationary in that spot and plug it in so I don't have to constantly unplug and plug in like all the different stuff because we just don't have many outlets. And then I'm gonna run one of these power strips right over here so I can plug in all of my power tools when I gotta use a power tool, or battery chargers to charge up all the battery power tools, just so that we can keep everything well charged up and get the most out of our time when we're out here in the shop. Let's get to plugging these in real quick. We did get the cords all ran and out of the way. What I ended up doing was I ended up running all the wiring for the, not the wiring, but the cords for the charging of my Black & Decker batteries and my DeWalt stuff, because I've got all that stuff here and I just wanted to have these hanging here so I can just put my batteries on and they're all in one spot. And then I zip tied the cords together, wrapped them around the shelving in the back corner out of the way, zip tied them out of the way, and then I zip tied this stuff together and it's all plugged in right there. That way it's all out of the way, not a bunch of separate wires. Extension cord lays along the floor nice and tight, and then going off this way as well. I've got the fridge, the freezer, the air compressor, and then I also zip tied this cord together, tucked back on the shelving all the way around. That way everything has its own space and it's all tied up together and not just cords flailing around everywhere. It's gonna be nice because if we gotta swap around wheels and tires, the air compressor is right here, whether we gotta do it in the shop right here or we're gonna do it just outside the door right there, which is where we have the Cadillac right now. It's close either way, and it'll just be much nicer. And what I'm really excited for is to get the dually in the shop here with all this organized space now, and just be able to pull it in here and do those compounds, injectors, head studs, all that good stuff right here in the shop, and actually have the room to do it, and all the tools nice and organized. I wiped down the bumpers, the windshield. It was kind of hard to reach the middle of the windshield. Much cleaner, much nicer, looks good. Shined up the exhaust tip, wiped down the plastics on the bumper, front and rear. And then the floor mat's kind of stained up. Actually, I put a broadhead and a field point here I gotta remember to take out. But the carpet, of course, underneath is spotless. Front and rear, very clean. Seats, I got them all wiped down, dash, steering wheel, all that good stuff. So she's all cleaned up and she's ready to ship out to Arizona. And another thing I want to touch on, I told you guys I was looking for either an OBS Ford 7.3 or a new body style 7.3. And I am still trying to keep my eye open for something like that, but I did also just find another deal on a 5-speed 12 valve. It's a 1-ton dually, just like the one I just bought that I haven't seen pretty much since I bought it. It's the same thing, but it's different color. It's a 98 with the factory folding doors. It's a 5-speed, like same mileage, almost similar condition, but it's not a sport. It's the difference. It's also got a flatbed, which is also different. It doesn't have as great of paint and stuff like that, but it's original and it would be a great project. Do you guys ever get sick of seeing second gens, 12 valves, stuff like that in general? Yes or no? Let me know. Well, we're kissing it goodbye. The silver 24 valve. It's always kind of a little bit of a strange, like, it's not bad feeling, but just kind of like a different feeling when you're shipping off a truck, and it's not like you gotta check for the truck like the person bought it off you necessarily, and like knowing that somebody's getting this truck for the price of like a t-shirt or a hoodie is just crazy. And when I say t-shirt or hoodie, I mean like t-shirt, hoodie, hat, sticker, whatever, you know, not any specific item you have to buy to win. Just be any item. Let's get this thing started up. That's the first startup in probably a week, just so you guys know. This is the best starting 24 valve I have ever seen or started up. Maybe they're all supposed to start like that. I don't know. Maybe I've just had bad experiences with a few that I've had the pleasure of starting up, but the thing runs freaking awesome. What is going on, guys? We're actually now at one of my other properties. We've been working on my Ohio property quite a bit. Now we're on my Indiana property, and I want to show you something that I was working on with my wife Reagan last week that we never really filmed. I didn't show you guys. I didn't have my camera out here, and we were just really trying to get some bedding work done on this property as fast as we could because it really needed it, and we're just running out of time, and I like to get it all done before the leaves start growing on the trees. Budding is fine, but once everything greens up bright, don't really like to do a lot of cutting, and there's a lot of different reasons for that, but the biggest one for me is I like to see what it's going to look like when it's bare and there's no leaves on anything, because that's mostly how it's going to be when we're out here hunting. That's mostly how it's going to be for the deer in the season. I don't want to make bedding that looks like it's super dense, it's super thick, and then in bow season, late bow season, once the leaves fall off everything, then you're in a situation where it's not as thick as you thought it was, because really it was just all the vegetation deceiving you into thinking it was a super dense, thick area, and then it just doesn't end up performing as well. And the other thing is too, I like to be able to see, okay, what are these deer going to be able to see from this bedding? Are they going to be able to see us accessing over here? Are they going to be able to see the stand where we're climbing up the ladder? Are they going to be able to, you know, see down this one trail that we have to cross to get back to this other spot? I want to be able to see what they're going to be able to see in the most barren part of the season when there's no leaves, no nothing. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I like to do it this time of year, is because there's no leaves on anything, so you can see what those deer are going to see in the time of year you're going to be sneaking back here to hunt. So that's one of the reasons. The other thing is too, it's just a lot easier to cut these trees in the dormant phase, and then you have all summer, spring, summer, early fall, when it's so hot and vegetation's growing, for new browse to grow up around this area with all that new sunlight, versus waiting until mid to late summer to cut, and then not only is it not going to be an accurate representation of what it's going to look like in the fall, so you're really not going to know what it's going to look like in the fall once you cut all this stuff. But another problem is you're not going to have very much time for regeneration to start, or all these little tiny shoots and all these little tiny saplings, they're not going to have as much time to gain sunlight and get nutrition and shoot up to create more browse and more brush and everything else. So let me show you what we worked on last week. And this is a pretty open property. If you look behind me, much different than our Ohio property. This property's pretty open. There's a lot of mature timber. You know, there's some huge hickories. There's a huge white oak. There's tons of big white oaks, red oak, a lot of shadbark hickories. So what we're doing is cutting a lot of the smaller stuff. Some of it's hardwoods, but a lot of it's softer stuff, a lot of soft maple and stuff. Quick disclaimer, I don't care about timber value. If you're a timber value fanatic, this may not be for you, but I could care less about the timber value. I'm about quality hunting for me and my family. If it produces good timber with more added sunlight and more nutrition for those trees, cool. But that's not why I do it. Now we do have a train getting ready to plow through, so I'm gonna wait just a couple minutes. Okay, so the train has passed. We've got the little battery saw today because I've actually found it very nice not having to have a chainsaw running and eating fuel and oil constantly and just loud. It's hard in the ears. But when I'm just cutting small stuff like this little guy here, and mostly like this type of stuff, this thing rips these things in half so quick. So it's perfectly fine for that. So here's the corner of this, and let me go over why we located the bedding where we did. So we did the bedding based on where we're not going to be either passing by, sneaking into stands, where we can hunt it on a good wind. And this is a very small property, but you can do this stuff on small properties and have a super high success rate. But over that way, about 150 yards, we've got a tree stand along a field edge. And then over that way, about 150 yards on the other corner of the property, we've got another tree stand on a field edge corner. And so with this property, you have to hunt corners because if you get into the heart of the property, there's not a lot of area here, and I'd rather have 90% of my property be designated for bedding. That way we can hold more deer and just hunt the edges, play the wind. And pretty much if any deer's in here and a buck has bedded in here with a doe and he gets up to follow her around, in a property the size of this one, pretty much a given you're going to be able to see that deer in the fall, or you're at least going to hear them chasing or whatever. Like in this property that's this small, if they're in your ground, you're probably going to see them, you're probably going to, you know, hear them or something. So you don't have to have like 10 different stand locations. We've got the corner of the bedding here, lots of thick brush here, real wet marshy area with a lot of brush. And so there's a stand that way and a stand out that way. So if we have a west wind on this property, we can hunt that corner or down there, and our wind's going to be blowing away from this bedding. And the way we access is all along that field edge on that side to get in, which is well out of vision for this location, well out of sight. These deer are never gonna see us. If our wind is good, they're never gonna smell us. And they're probably never gonna hear us coming along that field edge if they're bedded back here, which is exactly what we want. Make your bedding based on an area which is not only higher and drier than the lower stuff over there, it's higher and drier. If it's wet and damp, they're not going to use it unless there's little islands they can get onto bed. And make sure it's good for the winds you're going to be hunting the property and good for visual barrier for your stand locations. So this whole area here, you can see all the hinges. We made this so that if you're about 6 foot, you can pretty much walk under here. Not super easily, but pretty freely. I'm not crouching. I mean, you can see where these hinges are. I mean, these trees, like, they're right about 6 foot. I'm a little under 6 foot. I'm about 5'10", 5'11", and these got a couple inches above my head, most of them. And the reason for that is the deer aren't as tall as, you know, me, but if a deer is bedded down in here and they've got to jump up and take a quick bound, if this is way too short and these bucks feel like they're taking a bound, or these does, and they're getting their head caught up in a bunch of brush and it's tripping them up and snagging them up, they might not want to bed there again if they get spooked like that, and they can't evacuate the location very easily. If they don't feel safe getting out of an area as easily as it is to get in it, there's a good chance they might not want to bed there much more. So just take that into consideration as well. But you do want it to be low enough to where it feels more dense. So then this is just kind of the outer edge here. And then in here, You can see all these buds and all these twigs. I randomly have branches that I left hanging down, and then other ones you can see I cut if they were like obstructing the ability to move through here to get in and out. You can see all these hinge cuts in here. And then of this I left dents just to kind of shield away from a visual barrier to be able to see on that far edge there. I mean, you can see all this in here. I mean, it worked out very, very nicely. Very happy with the way it turned out. And we're not done with this. We're going to work on it some more today. But even like here, you can see where it's like a small, about 3 foot long by a little under 2 foot wide area here, and a little spot there. It looks like it might have been like a doe and a yearling bedded down right here. Actually, just recently, because I mean, that looks pretty darn fresh. We just made this a week ago, but I mean, it'll get used pretty quick. As long as it's done the way the deer like it, they'll use it. Kind of looks like there was another bed right here. So there might have been 2 or 3 does in here or something. But yeah, they can get in and out from a lot of different areas. Most of this is all very dry. We also just got poured on by rain like 2 days ago though, so keep that in mind. But most of this is very, very dry. They can move around in here pretty freely. There's advantages to having a super dense property to work with and a more open one. The advantage to this is nothing's been done to the property yet, so you can do it however you want, and you can mend the property however you want it to be and lay it out the way you want it. Versus if a property's super dense, you might have a lot of natural bedding just already there. You might not have to do much hinge cutting or anything really, actually, because it's already so dense. But if it's not where you want it, if it's not the way you want it, if it's too dense, can't really go back. You just kind of got to wait it out for quite a few years until it matures up enough to where then you can selectively keep it dense where you want it and not just have everything be dense. That's the only downside to my Ohio property, is those deer could pretty much bed wherever they want and they've got cover, versus here, it's open everywhere except for where I put the bedding, which is an advantage because I can pretty much almost guarantee that these deer are not going to just bed anywhere on this property. They could, but it's very unlikely that these deer are going to be bedding in the wide open timber over here with no cover if I put in amazing bedding like this right back here. Why would a deer bed 50 yards over there in the middle of the wide open timber when they can bed 50 yards over this direction and be in a perfectly secluded little patch of hinge cuts where, you know, they feel isolated, but they also feel that they could escape very quickly if they had to. So we're gonna go in here, get the little saw, drop some more trees, and show you the aftermath. Well, we're done cutting for the day. I cut for a good, I want to say a good 3 hours. I was out here quite a while, longer than I was planning on, and I only used 2 of those, actually not even 2. I used one of those 6 ampere hour batteries on that thing, and then I've used the second one for probably the last hour, and it's still got all the power it had when I first put it on, just in case anybody was curious about those battery powered 20-volt saws. Here's some more. There's where I stopped filming last time, and I did all this hinge cutting over here. Took it over here to the property line. You can see the one of the posted signs there. I actually own all the way to the track, right up to the gravel on the track. And then I did all this along the back here. You can see all this in here. This is all new. Kind of trying to stay on the outer edge of it, a little honeybee. There's all this. I hope you guys see this as beautiful as I do. Let's see this as being as beautiful as I think. I mean, hinge cut bedding areas, man, they rub me the right way, I'm telling you. I mean, it just creates so much cover so quick. Then here's one that broke off. You can see there wasn't very much hinge, and it kind of snapped, and so I had to cut up that whole log. You can see it's stacked up there out of the way. But even though it broke, it's still going to help with that sunlight. And this is just about where it ended, just over here. And there's probably a few more trees I could take out of here. I stopped, but the reason I stopped here is because there's a stand about a little under 100 yards that way, and right here there's a thick brushy patch that kind of blocks your visual barrier right through here. If you're coming in on the field edge to get to that corner stand, and with a good wind in the visual barrier, it'd be perfect if there's deer bedded up in here and they get up and pop out onto the railroad track and walk the edge, or if they just sneak out through here and cut out to that corner. It'll be perfect with this bedding area stopping over here. And the train, the deer get used to it. People, like, if you think like, oh, you know, properties next to the roads or next to train tracks or whatever, the deer aren't gonna like them. Trust me, the deer will adapt. My Ohio property is surrounded by city limits, and that's why it's bow hunting only. And there's more deer there than any other property I've ever hunted. And there's tons of commotion around there all the time. It's not a quiet place. When you're sitting in the stand, you hear church bells, and you hear all kinds of stuff. And sirens, there's a police station there, and never phases the deer. I'll have a buck out in front of me. There'll be an ambulance go by less than 100 yards away. Doesn't even faze them, if they're used to it. Now, if you go to a place that used to be all nice and secluded, then there's obnoxious noise everywhere all the time. For the first few years, it's probably not going to go over so well. But when generationally deer have been used to a certain condition, a certain environment, the deer that have been there and their offspring are all going to be unfazed by all that commotion. But anyways, that's a little update on the Indiana property bedding area work that we've done over here. And again, that's in a property that's much more open than the other one. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to show you guys the drastic difference between a dense forest and trying to create bedding, even though sometimes you don't need to do that, in an area that's like this, where, you know, you can see 80 to 100 yards if you're looking through certain openings. I mean, it's pretty open comparatively, but we fixed that with a few hours of chainsaw work, and hopefully this little acre and a half area of bedding helps this season, and we can get some deer down over here. We are now back up at Reagan and I's house. We do have something that we're going to be doing here that I'd like to test out. I know there's a lot of people that are always asking about these lower price tires, these new tires coming onto the market, and I'm always curious myself. Like the Venom Power tires, I think it's the Hunter XTs or ATs, I don't know. But we put those on the silver truck. Reagan put a set on one of her trucks that she gave away. I mean, we've had them on a few vehicles, but we've never been able to drive them long term. Like, I'm talking 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 miles. You know, like, we've never really tested those tires long term and seen for ourselves how they wear with proper rotations and whatever else. And I thought this would be the perfect vehicle to test that on, because this vehicle gets driven 25,000 miles in the last year. Very soon, within a few months, I'll have a few thousand miles on them. And I thought, you know what? We put a lot of miles on this car. Let's put a set of those lower cost tires on a car like this that we drive like crazy day in and day out, through the rain, through the snow, through the, you know, whatever. Although we aren't gonna have snow again for a while, but I'll be able to let you know my feedback on how they wear and tear and all that other stuff. See what kind of mileage they actually get, because they claim 50,000 miles of tread life on just like a daily driven vehicle. But you know, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. I already ordered them. I just ordered them today. Usually they're in like 2 days. I order them through Amazon because everything you can get through Amazon, and it's just freaking fast. So we're gonna get the tires in, throw them on this thing, and I wanna see how they perform. And also, I take this thing off-road, believe it or not, quite a bit at our properties, especially my Indiana property. It's got a really long lane that just is muddy and grassy and dirty, and I put in four-wheel drive every time I go down that lane, if that says anything. So it'll be nice to have something a little more aggressive when you're needing it, but all-terrain, so it's not stupid loud when you're just driving it day to day. I think they'll do good, but we'll see as time goes on. We'll see We'll see how they hold up. I was pricing out tires for this thing and they were only 180 bucks a tire for that car for the size that we need. So I was like, man, I'm very curious, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys that are. How well do these things actually hold up when you're daily driving them and putting a lot of miles on them? So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna show you some parts that we got in for the dually, and you guys are probably still wondering, where the heck is the dually, man? You bought the dually, you had it for 2 days and it was gone. And that is true. That is exactly what happened. And there's a little more to the story than we realized there was going to be, but we'll get to that soon. But in the meantime, I thought I'd show you a few things. We got some head studs for that truck, new milled, machined rocker arm pedestals, exhaust tip, rear door handles, because apparently the extended cab doors do not have door handles. So we got new door handles, third brake light or cargo light, whatever you want to call it, exhaust tip for the truck because it doesn't have one, new gauges for the truck. We're going to need new gauges if we're going to be doing a lot more boost, a lot more fuel, all that stuff. Now, I'm not going to tell you what gauges I went with yet in terms of what all readings I went with, but you guys will see that all very soon. Right now, I'm actually going to go and check on a project that I posted on my Instagram a few days back. It's been actually probably a little over a week now. It was a 3500 98 12-valve Cummins with a 5-speed. Dash is cracked, doors dented, hood needs new hinges, which we already have, needs new front bumper, new grille, all that stuff. But it doesn't have any rust on it. Other than a little bit of oxidation underneath, it doesn't really have any rust or rot specifically. So we're gonna go check this truck out. And if it's the right deal, maybe scoop up another 3500 12-valve with a 4-wheel drive and a stick in it, 5-speed. It's a 98, it's got the rear folding doors, but it's a factory folding door 12-valve. So let's go check this thing out. So here's the dually we were checking out. I showed you guys that picture on Instagram. We just started it up. It passes the blow-by test. You can see the rockers, cab corner, and all that stuff's good. Underneath, pretty darn clean. Even the straps aren't rusted in half. It's not rusted up around the fuel tank, which is usually bad. There's no rust here at all. Smooth as can be. Cab mount's good. So this is the project we're looking at. You can see it's got the stick. Then here's a truck he's actually got for sale here. Here's their website. I'll just leave their website here. You guys want to check this out if you guys are interested. I believe it's an 01 24-valve 2-wheel drive. Does have a couple small dents there, but other than that, it's very, very clean underneath. If you guys are interested in something that's more original, doesn't have a little bit of everybody's work done to it over the years they've been around, that's the way I like to find them. This is a 6-speed too. There you go. Here's another one he's got for sale. This one's a 4-wheel drive, 6-speed. 24-valve. Got some oxidation, but it's not rotted out. You can see underneath here. Get you a good old look. And again, these trucks are for sale at dieseltrucks.com, TRUX. You can see the rocker. The door's got a little bit of surface right here, but not bad. Nothing's through. Again, original. Nobody else has done anything to it. 6-speed, 4-wheel drive. Dash has a couple cracks. They all do, it seems like. Interior's in pretty darn good shape though, for the most part. You guys got to keep in mind, nothing's been redone on these. These are original old trucks. So if you guys are wanting something that nobody else has touched and you're wanting the truck, Speedway Motors in Fort Wayne, Indiana, he tries to find them untouched. Some people don't like that. I do. When I'm doing a project, I want something that nobody else has put their hands on. And to be clear, he did say everything in the lot is for sale. So if you see anything you're interested in, it doesn't have to be the diesel. Anything you see is for sale on his website, dieseltrucks.com. Go check it out, guys. That was the dually. I know she looks kind of rough right now, but you got to think about it. For the most part, the worst stuff on it is a bumper, headlights, repaint, door. There's not many needs that that truck has. He said that it shifts through the gears, starts up, runs good, starts at the turn of a key. The dash is all split apart up on top. It's not rusty underneath, like there's no rotting and Swiss cheese rust holes going on. So I mean, it's a solid foundation, and I think it could be an awesome transformation. I think we could do a lot really quick, but it's just up to you guys. Do you want to see that? Let me know. I think it'd be pretty freaking sweet. That's just me. I just like seeing those old trucks that have been kind of neglected, but they're original, getting a second chance at existence for another couple decades in all pristine condition again. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Also, keep in mind that 20X entries are live right now to enter to win our white 1992 first gen plus $5,000 cash. And if you want to enter to win that truck, you are running out of time. The giveaway ends in just 48 hours. So you guys have 2 days and that giveaway is gone. Depending on when you're watching this video. That's if you're watching it the day it goes up. So anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Get entered to win that first gen while we can. 86,000 miles on it, 12 valve. It's an awesome truck, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.